Hi everyone, welcome back to Earl Grey Books. I'm Ellie and today I'm doing my December and January haul. So as you can see, I kind of have a few books. I was meant to be on a book buying ban in January. We'll get to that. But I did buy a couple of books in December. I bought 4. So not too bad, and yes, we're going to get into them. So I have separated these into 3 separate piles, 2 you can see here and 1 on my lap. So I kind of have books that I have read, either ones that I'd read before and bought copies of, or ones that I have read since buying. And then I also have 2 here that I am currently reading. I then have some middle grade and then kind of everything else. So let's jump in with those ones that I have read before / am currently reading. So there are technically 7 of these, 5 of which I've read. So let's talk about them. Some of them you have seen kind of recently, so we'll start with those. I bought Wilderness Tips by Margaret Atwood. This is a short story collection. I read this in December and I liked it. It was okay. There were some really great stories in here and some not so great ones, as you usually get in a short story collection. So bought this one from an op shop. It was a couple of dollars. Very happy about it. And then in my mid-month wrap up, this is the whole mid-month wrap up, you'll see that I read Lives of Saints by Leigh Bardugo. I bought this one in early to mid-Jan, and it is just like what it sounds like. It's kind of like Fables of Saints from the Grishaverse, with these beautiful illustrations by Daniel J. Zollinger, I believe. Yeah, some really stunning ones in there, so I will link both of those wrap-ups below if you're interested in hearing me talk about these in more detail. Okay, from that same op shop trip, I got myself a copy of Flames by Robbie Arnott. I read this in 2018. There was kind of like a period of about 2 months when all of my old co-workers and I all read this book, so that most of us loved it and we sold a lot of it. So yeah, I never owned a copy. One of my co-workers lent me hers and I really liked this book and I saw it, so I got it. And yeah, hopefully I will get to reread this maybe later in the year. And then these ones, one of them I reread last year and another I haven't read in ages. But my best friend saw this one at her work and instantly sent me a picture and was like, I've put this aside for you. So that one is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, in this gorgeous edition from, I think it's from Virago. I do already own a copy of this, but it is one of my top 3 books and the copy I own isn't like gorgeous. This one is beautiful, and yeah, I reread this in October of last year. Probably not going to reread it for a couple of months, if not a year or 2. But yeah, it was just a really beautiful cover, and I caved, which is very much a theme in January. So I guess this is probably a good time to mention that most of these I bought in a single day, which is not something I would usually do, but I went into the city for the first time since March last year to see Angel at her new workplace. She's at a new store, so I wanted to see that one because I haven't seen it before, and yeah, I just hung out in the city and did some things that I had to do, and also went to Dymocks. So some of these were from Dymocks, some of them are ones that Angel kind of talked me into. There wasn't a lot of talking into it needed, but that was a very long way to talk about Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. I had made myself a list sort of towards the end of December of ones that I really wanted to buy in January, and I've marked most of them off my list now, with a couple of exceptions for ones that I decided that I could wait a little bit for. But yes, Kindred was on that list because they are re-releasing a lot of Butler's books, and this was the first one of hers that I ever read, and I think I read it like 6 or 7 years ago now. I'm trying to think when it was, but yeah, I never owned a copy because it was ridiculously hard to get here, and yeah, now they're being re-released here, and I believe they're also being re-released in the US and UK and everywhere else. And yes, I loved this one originally, and I'm very excited to reread it, hopefully in the next few weeks. This is possibly going to be part of a post, so hopefully I will be able to get to it. And then I have two that I am currently reading. One I bought on that day, which was The History of Mischief. It's very hard to see the title there. This is by Rebecca Higgie. Beautiful cover. This is, I believe, Australian. Yes, it's from Fremantle Press, so I would say Australian. And middle grade, so this is about a young girl, and her parents have died. She lives with her older sister in their grandmother's old house, and they find like an old book, and it sort of leads them on an adventure. I started reading this one, and I'm not even 30 pages in yet, and it was just sort of starting up, and I was really liking it so far. So I will be continuing with this in February, and you'll hear more about it then, hopefully. And then I have one that I pre-ordered, I think in November, that was released this month, and that is Lore by Alexandra Bracken. The Darkest Minds is one of my favourite series of all time, so when I saw that there was a new book from her coming out, I had to get it. This is kind of Greek mythology, but it's kind of set like modern day, but also not like in our world, but also not in our world. Kind of like a secret hidden world. I'm sure there's a literary term for that. But yeah, there's like families, and for I think it's, yeah, for a week every 7 years a bunch of gods become mortal, and those families kind of hunt them, and it's kind of complicated. I'm 80 pages in, so really enjoying it so far, and I will also be continuing on with this one in Feb. Very excited for that. Okay, now let's move into my middle grade stack. So most of these were ones that Angel kind of talked me into. So thanks, best friend. Okay, so let's start with these ones. These ones are ones that I had wanted to get and was just kind of putting it off, and I was just like, you know what? Let's do it. And those are books 2 and 3 in the Kane Chronicles by Rick Riordan. So this is Serpent Shadow, and this is The Throne of Fire. I think this is book 2 and book 3. Already owned book 1, read it again years ago. I'm kind of going through a Rick Riordan resurgence. Reread Percy Jackson at the end of last year, hoping to get to Heroes of Olympus. Thinking it might be like March. And I also want to get to this series because I've always been meaning to finish it. So I will also be rereading the first one. Also trying to get to the Magnus Chase series and eventually to Trials of Apollo. We'll kind of see how we go with that one. But yes, I think that I might even end up rereading Red Pyramid before Heroes of Olympus, since this one isn't connected to that world. I guess Magnus Chase is kind of the same, but also kind of connected. So yeah, I think I may end up reading these ones first, since they're not part of that world, and I can just reread them and then that's like done. And then yeah, I just have a bunch of random ones here. First up, we have The Case of the Missing Marquis by Nancy Springer, which is the first book in the Enola Holmes series. I watched the movie in November, I think it came out, like a day or two after it was released, and I loved it. So I wanted to read the books, and I thought, let's do it. It's a pretty thin one. It's kind of like big writing, so excited to see if I like this as much as I did the movie. Usually I wouldn't do it that way, but I was just really excited about the movie. So okay, so here's an Aussie middle grade. This is The Grandest Bookshop in the World by Amelia Mellor. You can't see quite how beautiful this cover is because of the light, but it is stunning. So this is set in 1893 in Coles Book Arcade in Melbourne, which is a bookshop that used to exist and sadly doesn't anymore. I don't know when it closed down, but I think it was like quite a long time ago. Yeah, this is a middle grade about 2 kids living in that bookshop with their pa, who may possibly be their dad. Yes, their eccentric father. Pa is their dad. Pa for me was always my grandpa, so I was kind of hoping it would be their grandpa, because I love a good grandparent in a book, especially in middle grade. But that's okay. And then these 2 ones are just random ones. This is Cinders and Sparrows by Stefan Bachman. I don't really know much about this one except for it's middle grade and possibly magic-y, and that the author is from Switzerland, which is cool. And this one is another one that Angel kind of just like put in my hands, and I was like, sure, This is Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston. Ever since then, I have seen so many people talking about this one, lots of hype for it, so very excited. Again, don't super know what this is about. Seems magic-y, possibly a bit Nevermore-ish. It has a quote from Jessica Townsend on the front and one from Angie Thomas on the back. This is probably going to be a good book. So that's middle grade. Now, the last few. This is just like completely random. A lot of them don't really have anything to do with anything. But speaking of Angie Thomas, Concrete Rose came out, so I bought it. I also got to see a talk from Readings last weekend with Angie Thomas and Leanne Hall, which was incredible, and very excited for this. Planning on rereading The Hate U Give before this one. I know that this is a prequel that follows Star's dad, but in that talk Angie mentioned that there were some familiar characters, and knowing me, I will not remember and will spend the entire time thinking, am I supposed to know this character? So, reread it, read this. Problem solved. These two I both got in December. One of them was a Christmas gift to myself that arrived way earlier than anticipated, and the other one I pre-ordered. It's supposed to come out in October. Took a while. I think it ended up getting released here in November, and then arrived in December. But it's these two. This is The Mothers by Brit Bennett. Vanishing Half was one of my favorite books of last year, so immediately was like, I need it. And this one arrived a lot earlier than I was anticipating. Said it was going to get here in January. Turned up like 2 weeks later. So that's fine. Very excited for it. And this is Memorial by Brian Washington. This is his first novel. I read Lot in 2019, which is short stories, incredible. Got to meet him at the Sydney Writers Festival. Very lovely man. Very excited for this one. Don't really know what it's about at all, but excited to get to it. And then I have these two random fantasy ones that I was like, yes, I definitely need these this month. So I first have The Bone-Charred Daughter by Andrea Stewart. I have absolutely no idea what this one is about. I believe it is perhaps Asian inspired. It speaks of the Sukai dynasty, emperors, revolutions, magic. I'm into it. And then I also picked up The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. So I've been seeing this one everywhere for months, and I always get taken in by the cover. It's gorgeous. I love the whole like floral aspect to it. Big fan. And I finally was like, you know what, I'm just gonna read the back. I'm gonna see what it's about. And it starts with, in 1893 there's no such thing as witches. And it follows three sisters in New Salem who join the suffragettes, and has to do with witches and feminism and the right to vote, suffragette movement, fantasy elements to it as well. So really excited for that one as well. So that's everything. So I kind of talked about at the end of last year curbing my book buying and working very much on my physical TBR, and then obviously this is not that. But I really don't want to put pressure on myself this year. Here's the thing. I'm a person who loves having a big TBR. I'm going to talk about this and my relationship with hauls in a video in a couple of weeks. But I love books. I don't really spend money on anything else other than like food and medical things. So this is kind of, this is my outlet. This is something that I love. I know I'm going to read these books eventually, and if I don't, I'm going to get rid of them. I'm also not a person who holds on to books that I don't need. Other things less so. But we all had a shit year in 2020, and I'm not going into 2021 making myself feel bad about getting things that make me happy. And that's just my little spiel here at the end of this haul. I hope you're all doing well, and I will see you all next time, which will of course be my end of January wrap up. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you then. Bye.